Teenagers. Teenage years can be complicated, especially when you don't make the right decisions. Hi everybody, it's Mena. Welcome back to my channel, or if this is the very first video that you're seeing of me, then welcome to my channel. Please be sure to hit that subscribe button down below. If you didn't already, I post every day except for Tuesday and Friday afternoon sometimes. And today in this video, I'm going to go over the top 10 things I'm glad I never did as a teenager. So I know when we're teenagers, we are kind of like thinking about adulthood and how we want to grow up and stuff. And then we want to do things that adults do and blah, 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 and think we're old enough to do it. And there are some things we're still not old enough to do, especially when we're teenagers. So these are things that some teenagers can get into. I'm not saying all teenagers like that. There's some good teenagers who never do any of these things. I've known a lot of teenagers who were like always good and never got into trouble. But anyway, these are things that teenagers kind of can do and they can get into trouble for them. These are things that I never did when I was a teenager, and I'm glad I never did these things, because then I would have been a troubled teenager. So I'm gonna get started, and I hope you guys enjoy the video. Number one. So number one on my list would have to be have an attitude. So I never had an attitude when I was a teenager. I never had an attitude with my parents. I never had an attitude with my teachers or any adult. I just never wanted to get so snotty with people and stuff. And some teenagers can get quite snotty, but not all of them. I know some people who, I know a lot of people who were very nice as teenagers when I was a kid. Like, not a lot of them were snotty or rude or any way. And there are some teenagers who can get those teenage attitude where they think they're like cool and stuff and give their parents attitude, and some teenagers are like that, but they soon learn to appreciate what they have. I mean, not all teenagers can get like that, but some teenagers can get those like snotty attitudes and be a little rude and disrespectful, especially to their parents. So my brother and I never had that when we were teenagers. Like, we never gave our mom attitude at all. We were always very polite and nice, and she raised us to be very good kids, and we just were always like really polite to everybody. Number two. Number two on my list would be sneak out. So my siblings and I, when we were teenagers, never really snuck out. I never snuck out to anywhere. I would always tell my mom where I was going, just because she was like me. She's a worrywart just like me. And I knew if I didn't tell her where I was going, she'd be really scared and worried, and I never would sneak off without telling my parents where I was going. I would always text them whenever I got to school, or if I was coming home late, I usually would call them and stuff. I would just or if I was going somewhere and I got to a friend's house safely, I would always call them just in case I was walking somewhere. Number three on my list would have to be get into trouble at school or anywhere. So I never got into trouble at school or anywhere, because I was always a good person. I would always follow the rules pretty much anywhere I would go, and I would always respect the rules. And so did my brother and my sister. Number four on my list should be cut school. So I never cut school as a teenager. And the reason behind why I never cut school as a teenager is because I knew it was like the wrong thing. The only time I would cut school was whenever I had like a doctor's appointment with my mom and stuff, and we would notify the school. Those are the only times I would be absent from school, or if I was going on a trip. So I didn't really cut school like on purpose, like not tell my school I wasn't in or anything, or sneak away from school or left campus or anything. I never did any of that stuff because I knew I would get in trouble even if I did. And I have a full story about how, actually 2 story times about how my classmates have snuck off campus at school. And if you want to see those 2 videos, I will link them down below if you didn't see. Number 5. Number 5 on my list would have to be sneak off campus without permission. So I never snuck off campus without permission. Anytime I had to leave school for like an appointment, I would always tell the office because I knew if I didn't, they would probably worry about me or call my parents or get in trouble, and I would get in trouble and stuff. So I would always make sure I told the office if I needed to leave school for something going to be like super important, or like an appointment for the doctor or a dentist appointment. I would always just make sure I told the school or checked in with the office before I left. I remember one time when I was in high school, my mom and I accidentally forgot to call my my absence to verify it, called my school to verify my absence, and this is the day I was getting my braces off. And I had spent the day with my mom, and she took me to get my computer fixed for school. And she took, not for school, she took me to get my computer fixed. And we had a lot we had to do that day. So we had an appointment, we had to, and then we had my orthodontist appointment to get my braces off that day, and we accidentally forgot to call the school to tell them I was going to be absent. Oopsie, but we learned from our mistakes. Number 6. Number 6 on my list would have to be get into trouble with the law. So I was happy I never got into trouble with the law. I know some teenagers can get in trouble with the law because they either do things without thinking, or they steal or something, or blah, 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 blah. I mean, like I said, I'm not saying all teenagers are like this. There's a lot of teenagers I've known who are always good, always sweet and kind. And there are some teenagers who will do this stuff without thinking. So I never ever got into trouble with the law. I never ended up in trouble, and it was a good thing because I would be a bad person, especially as a teenager. Number 7. Number 7 on my list had to be steal things like money or items from my parents. I never stole anything from my parents, which is a good thing. Because then they wouldn't trust me with anything. It's just never a good thing to steal anything from your parents, especially when you're a teenager. It's just always important to ask permission first. Stealing is just never okay. Stealing anything from your parents is never okay. Number 8. Number 8 on my list would have to be smoke. I am glad I never smoked as a teenager, and I never want to smoke at all. The smell just disturbs me. It's very disgusting, and it makes me uncomfortable, and it's just not a good smell for me at all. I do not like it, and I've never smoked anywhere, especially if there was a no smoking sign somewhere. I will never smoke at all just because I do not want to be at risk for lung cancer. I mean, not all people get at risk for lung cancer, but I guess it depends on how much you smoke. And I do have a story about how 2 teenagers at my school one time were caught smoking on campus. And if you want to see that story, I will leave the link in the description box down below. Number 9. Number 9 on my list would have to be steal things from stores. I never stole anything from stores. I would always remember to pay for things before leaving the store, and I I'm glad I never did it because I would get banned from certain stores, especially if I liked them. It's just never a good thing to steal, especially when you're a teenager, because that's just never a smart thing to do. Because you can get in trouble and not trusted in stores. Number 10. Number 10 on my list had to be damaged property. So I never damaged any type of property, whether it was at school, on my own property, people I didn't know's property. I never damaged any type of property anywhere on purpose. I mean, not that I would damage property. I never damaged any property as a teenager because I know that it's a really stupid thing to do is damage property, especially when you're hanging around with your friends or if a place is abandoned. So you should always be careful, especially when you're a teenager, so you don't get in trouble with the law. So those are the top 10 things I'm glad I never did as a teenager. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope this video helped you from making these decisions that some teenagers make. If you're a teenager or you're going to be a preteen or a teenager soon, just make sure you do not make these terrible mistakes or else you can get into trouble in life. So thank you guys so much for watching. Please be sure to like and subscribe if you haven't already. I post every day except for Tuesday and Friday afternoon sometimes, and I'll see you in another video soon. Bye.